वंदे गुरुपदद्वन्द्वं अवाङ्मनस्सगोचरं रक्तशुक्लप्रभामिश्रम् अतर्क्यं त्रैपुरं महत्. ओम तत्सत्. Most respected Adhyaksha Sri Ayushji and all the dignitaries who are present here, Professor Makarand Paranjpe, Anand Bhaiyaji, and Dr. Mehraji, and all Sudhijan intellectuals who are participating in this wonderful intellectual feast. I was also participating in this session right from the beginning. I was trying, because for the last 7-8 days I was not keeping well and was a bit doubtful whether I could participate in this seminar. Anyhow, I made it. All the good words which are being introduced by my dear brother Ayushji, I think after my speech you will be a bit disappointed that I don't think that I am a prolific orator or something, but still what all I could say, for that, with preparation, especially a subject like this, a great philosopher is being remembered, analyzed, and also I have to speak after great thinkers, those who are living in Aurobindo's philosophy. So in that way, my physical condition, mental and intellectual condition are a bit tired. So still, it's a duty to have a final speech in this final function or in this validity function. Before I will delve into the topic which has been given to me, I would like to speak something about one particular question which has been asked to Professor Makarand Paranjpe. He has answered it very well, that what is it for we are celebrating the jubilee of a freedom which we have got from colonialists. I feel that it has got a great relevance. It's the duty of a true citizen to remember about the history through which we have come across. Especially the generation who are living now, those who born after 1947. They were not that aware about the hardships, the dedication, the surrendering, which has been made by the great independence struggle leaders, our forefathers, for attaining this great freedom. So remembering them is one thing. Another thing, we have to know the true meaning of this Swatantrata. See, Makarandji has very well explained it. Right from the Vedic period, Upanishadic period, our ancient times, our medieval time, everywhere, Swatantrata was with us. Everything was for Swatantrata here. He has said very well in the Trika Shastra, Shiva's characteristic nature has been explained in the first sukta, the very first sukta. Chitis Swatantra Vishwasiddhi Hetu. Swatantra, Chitis Swatantra Vishwasiddhi Hetu. The Pure Vishwa, in all this universe, right from Samanya log, ordinary people to the Paramashiva or Shiva. Everywhere, the one principle which is ruling the whole world and universe is Swatantrata, Swatantrya. That's a philosophical interpretation. As far as the Kala aspect is, which is being explained now by Dr. Vela Mehraji. What is it for? Kala is also for Swatantrata. Sa Kala ya vimuktaye. One which makes us free is Kala. That has been explained by her. One which emancipates us. हमको स्वतंत्र करने के लिए ही कला. So everything is for Kala. What is it for yoga? Why we are doing all this sadhana and everything? It is for the ultimate swatantrata, the independence of ourselves. For that purpose we have fought the freedom also, to know what swatantrata and what the swatantrata sangram was. Aurobindo was the greatest person we have to follow to understand it properly. Understand the independence struggle properly. What was it for? And what was the real inspiration, or I may say provocation, which directed us to did all these type of sacrifice for the independence? Many are saying it was for the political power alone. Some are saying it was for the economic emancipation alone. But Aurobindo very clearly defined in his famous speech, the awakening soul of India. Awakening soul of India. Aurobindo was the philosopher of Indian independence struggle also. I would like to quote, the task we set before ourselves is not mechanical but moral and spiritual. In the very first sentence itself, when he was addressing the people of Bharat, was saying, the task we set before ourselves is not mechanical but moral and spiritual. We aim not at the alternation of a form of government but at the building up of a nation. It was not just for changing a government or administrative mechanism alone. That means it was not mere a political war. Keval Rajanaitik nahi hai. Yes, before 1905, there was Sri Aurobindo, where which he was very much focusing upon the political freedom. There is no doubt. I will come back to that point also. But after the Alipur jail, sadhana and everything, when he came out of it, he very clearly defined that it was not just for changing a form of government. Of that task, politics is a part. So in the first session, Makaranji was saying, politics has invaded everywhere. It is coming into your spirituality also. It has already been started, sir. There are Shankaracharyas who are saying, who are fighting for politics also. In that way, mathas have been spiritualized. Everywhere this type of politicization is happening. But Aurobindo gave the caution, and that he was saying, of that task, politics is a part, but only a part. You have to understand that. We shall devote ourselves not to politics alone. Again he is saying, not to social questions alone, not to theology or philosophy or literature or science by themselves, but we include all these in one entity which we believe to be all important, the dharma, the national religion which we also believe to be universal. Here I would like to say, Aurobindo was such a personality, such a great personality, who never minced these words when it is to be said. He never minced, because he didn't want to fight for the next election. So politically correct होने की कोई जरूरत नहीं था Aurobindo को. इसलिए उन्होंने mince नहीं किया. Whether we are that sincere about, sorry to ask, Aurobindo's philosophy, we have to think about that also. How he has put it, say, देखिए, we believe to be all important, the dharma, the national religion which we also believe to be universal. There is a mighty law of life, a great principle of human evolution, a body of spiritual knowledge and experience of which India has always been destined to be guardian, exemplar and missionary. This is the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal religion. Here again he is specifically saying, for that we are fighting. Sanatana Dharma, the eternal religion. Under the stress of alien impacts, she has largely lost hold not of the structure of that dharma, but of its living reality. For the religion of India is nothing if it is not lived. It has to be applied not only to life, but to the whole of life. Here comes the real aim of the Indian independence struggle. He is saying, its spirit has to enter into and mold our society, our politics, our literature, our science, our individual character, affections and aspirations. Everywhere this spirit, the Sanatana Dharma principle, is to be applied. If at all it is not possible, if you are not able to apply, if you are not able to imbibe this spirit, this dharmic principle in different facets of your life, you cannot say that you are Swatantra. You cannot say, you cannot claim that you are Swatantra. You are still colonized, rightly said by Dr. Parajpay. Still, we have got that colonized effect in your mind. I would like to, this is not politics, still I found a wonderful observation made by our Honorable Pradhan Mantri in his Swatantrata speech. उन्होंने जो किया था, पंच प्राणा के बारे में उन्होंने बताया. He has said, and in that second principle was, you have to eradicate the last spot of servitude from your mind. He put before us this particular lecture. You have to strive for that also. In that way, Aurobindo has already said, we have to attain the true Swatantrata by applying the Sanatana Dharmic principle in all aspects. This is not communal. This is a universal religion. This is a universal dharma. He has said it very clearly. So, he used to repeat, he used to quote the great sloka in Bhagavad Gita. Whenever he wants to talk about the Swatantrata Sangram, in the 35th sloka of the 3rd Adhyaya of Bhagavad Gita, the great sloka, everyone, you are all aware about, you know about that particular sloka. Sreyan Swadharmo Viguna Paradharmat Sunishtitat Swadharme Nithanam Shreya Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Paradharma is Bhayavaha. If you are following the Swadharma, even death may come, but that also is Shreyas. Shreyas. It will give you Shreyas. But if you are following but glittering Paradharma, or the colonized the feeling, and also you are attracted towards that, that is Bhayavaha, that is frightening. That's what which Gita said. In another occasion, it has been said, Sarvam Paravasham Dukkham. If it is under the control of my doings, my living, my clothing, my eating habits, my language, everything is being controlled by some others, it is dukkha. It is dukkha actually. It is paratantrata. Sarvam atmavasham sukham. What is sukha? It is being clearly explained that if it is atmavasha, swavasha, then that is sukha. So in that way, if you are searching for the inspiration of our Indian independence struggle, it is Swa-inspired war. It has been clearly explained by Maharishi Aurobindo in his Awakening Soul of India. It is for the soul of Bharat. It is for the Swa, for the Swa or selfhood of the Bharat. So in that way, he gave the spiritual and intellectual leadership for the greatest independence struggle, which was, greatest independence struggle means I am just talking about a 6-year-old independence struggle happened in Bharat to 1905 to 1911. That is the anti-Bengal partition war. That was the period where Sri Aurobindo was politically acting. That is the period in which he gave the proper leadership for Bharat in that struggle. We have to go deep into the history of anti-Bengal agitation war also, Vanga Bhanga Virodhi Andolan. There are so many experts sitting here in the history and also experts from Bengal itself. They knew it better than me. Bengal presidency was partitioned, was divided by Britain. Lord Curzon. What was the purpose? It has been said, even today, in our history books, it has been said that Britain has said that for the administrative convenience, Bengal presidency is a vast one, right from Kalinga to Dhaka, Sialkot, Tak. So for the administrative convenience, it has been divided. Was it so? Pakka not. They want to divide Bharat as a whole and they need a rehearsal. That's it. Maybe, Madam ne bataya na saral ढंग से मैं बता रहा हूँ. I am trying to simplify it. Not trying, that's my style. I can't speak like Paranj Peji. So, it was just to divide. Bengal partition was done as a prelude or as an introduction or as a rehearsal of whole Bharat's partition. But what was our reaction? Not only Bengalis, not only Odias, not only Dakites, the whole Bharat reacted to it. Whole Bharat. From Tamil Nadu, great poet, Krantikari poet, and also a great admirer of Aurobindo's principles and theories, the great Subramanya Bharatiya. He went to Kolkata, right way he went to Kolkata, sat on the lotus feet of Bhagini Nivedita and got the initiation, Krantikari Diksha liya Bhagini Nivedita ji se. Vande Mataram Hriday mein lekar, and also, I don't know how much significant is the third point which I am going to say. He got the prasada of Kali Puja Kunkuma and came back to Tamil Nadu, translated Vande Mataram in Tamil, and he gave the prerana to the Tamilians and Malayalis and all the South Indians that not Bengal is being divided. It is Bharata Mata's baya hath, left hand has been cut. So it's our sacred duty to fight against it. If you are not doing anything at this moment of history, it will be a great sin. And the future generation may raise their finger towards towards you. So इस प्रकार का emotional speech के द्वारा Subramanya Bharatiya, not only Subramanya Bharatiya, the whole Bharat rose against that Bengal partition. We usually remember it as Bengal partition only. We are not ready to learn or read or ask our children to read about the Bengal Jeet ka itihas, Bengal victory history. What was the Bengal history, victory history? That was a long, great struggle, where in which none of the leaders, so many great leaders other than Sri Aurobindo and others, there were no great towering personalities at that time to lead Bengal agitation. But the society was in our front. But none of them never said, okay, we have fought for 2 years, 2.5 years, we are tired, we are old, and we can't afford yet another hour in the jail, so let us have the partition. ऐसा किसी ने बताया, कुछ लोगों ने बताया कुछ समय के बाद, इसलिए मैंने particularly ये बात बता रहा हूँ. They fought with the swa as the main inspiration. भारत माता का चित्र, अवनींद्रनाथ टैगोर जी का जो जिक्र आ गया है. Abhinavanath Tagore, the nephew of Rabindranath Tagore, has drawn a wonderful Bharat Mata's picture. Yogini Roop, Sannyasini के रूप में भारत माता का चित्र उन्होंने बनाया. I was expecting such a picture in your presentation also. Bhagini Nivedita has announced at that point that this picture I am going to distribute among the lakhs and lakhs of people of Bharat. So people have got an idol, a symbol, an icon, and with that spirit they fought. And Britain, who was strong, not not only strong, I would like, I may use, the English professor is sitting, I may use a Shakespearean prayoga, most strongest, most unkindest cut jaisa. The most strongest force England at point of time, 20th century beginning. भारत के अंदर राजनीतिक फोर्स उतना strong भी नहीं था. But the clear spirit of spiritual and moral fight which has been initiated by the great leaders like Sri Aurobindo and all, we fought and we won. Convincing victory हमको मिला. But my question before you, how far it is related to Sri Aurobindo, you may think about that also. What happened to Bharat after 1911? In between 1947 and 1911, in the 3.5 decades, 36 years, what happened to Bharat to succumb before Britain's threatening and allowed the whole Bharat Mata to be divided? So many researchers are sitting here. Please go through it. The teachings which have been given by Sri Aurobindo and others, whether it has been taken seriously by the people who led the independence struggle or political war afterwards, whether they have forsaken the great symbols which have inspired our people to fight against the great enemy, Britain. Vande Mataram has been forsaken, it has been given away. In 1923, you may be knowing. So, right from the beginning, you are hearing so many of the philosophical speeches. I am giving you some some simplified form of history I would like to present before you. But you may think about this. What happened to Vande Mataram, which was clearly the inspiring mantra, the power-packed song. Sri Aurobindo used to explain it like that. Power-packed mantra or song of Indian independence struggle. Our independence struggle leaders, the great contest leaders, they just ignored it. In 1923, Kakinada contest painting, I don't want to go much deep into that. What happened to the Bharat Mata concept? Bhavani Mandir, Bhavani Bharati jo concept yahan aaya tha. What happened to that? What happened to the temples to be Mandir Khade, or temple to be constructed in each and every village of Bharat? What happened to it? What happened to the Raksha Bandhan? आपस में रक्षा बंधन बांध करके भारत की स्वतंत्रता संग्राम में भाग लेने वाले लोगों को जो प्रेरणा दिया था, इसको क्या हुआ? What happened to it? What happened to Netaji? What happened to the great leaders? So at last, we went after some Western principles. One of the great leaders of that time in 1936 AICC Congress meeting में, that great leader, I don't want to mention the name, it is not proper to mention the name, but you can Google 1936 AICC conference, you will find it. And it has been clearly mentioned that this nationalist feeling and the revolutionary emotions have decreased to its lowest ebb. The only one principle and philosophy which is winning is not these type of feelings, it is socialism and communism and left principles. The only advancing and progressing nation is Soviet Russia, and it is going ahead. So in a way, it has been clearly said, you may not go after the nationalist spirit in the true sense, you may not go after Bharat Mata principle, you may not chant Vande Mataram, you have to say another slogan, whatever it may be the slogan, if you are not living the spirit. सुबह तो बताया था इंकलाब जिंदाबाद के जगह पर भारत माता आने से काम नहीं चलेगा. But if you are ready to live that principle, if you are ready to imbibe that spirit into your marrow even, then it will be successful. But what happened? It has been forcefully eradicated from our mind, and our mind became vacant. Nature का एक स्वभाव है, it abhors vanity. Vacuum को वो बिल्कुल मानते नहीं हैं. If the mind become vacuum, the nature will fill it with some trash. That's it. If some positive things are not available, it will be filled with some trash. Such trashes came into our mind, and that's why, in a way, we were not able to fight, a strong fight we were not able to give against the partition. So this is the time to think about that aspects also. So and also the great leaders and our history is to be remembered properly. The dangerous aspect which has come into our history, education and everything is, it is very selective. If you have been given some lessons about the Indian independence struggle, you can just expect what all are the leaders and which family you are going to study, you are learning. You are not learning about, you are not means, I am from Kerala. But Telangana and this Andhra Pradesh is very near to Kerala. But I am not claiming that I was a very good student. But still, I still remember. I am not remembering in my history classes. Alluri Sitaramaiah was not a point to be heard. Was not a hero to be remembered in my history books. Velu Nachar is very near to Kerala. Very near. Velu Nachar was the leader of, was the queen of Shivaganga district of Tamil Nadu. It is hardly 30 or 40 kilometers away from the boundary of Kerala. But being a Keralite, I do feel ashamed to tell you bluntly before you, I came to know about Velu Nachar recently only. Why it happened? ये प्लान्ड तरीके से कुछ अच्छे स्वतंत्रता संग्राम के नेताओं को साइडलाइन करने का प्रयास चल रहा है. इसलिए I would like to put before you, when you are talking about Indian independence struggle and when we are bit skeptically or doubtfully we are asking why we are remembering Indian independence struggle or this jubilee, I would like to say at least to know about the unknown heroes. At least to know about the sideline histories, the turning points of this great land. We have to learn the history, we have to celebrate the Jubilee, we have to celebrate those great personalities. It is a sort of gratitude from our side, a sort of gratitude. We have to admit the fact that the free air which we are enjoying freely, it is not because of you are enjoying the free air. It was because of their sacrifice we are enjoying it. It is there in the air which we are breathing, the blood and the sweat and the tears of those great freedom struggle leaders. So we can't just think that is it necessary to remember? Yes, it is necessary. Through which these great leaders can also be remembered. So time is limited. My paper, I have also prepared a small note, not that scholarly as Prajpay ji or Dr. Nehra ji or Lekha utna nahi hai. For me, I don't want to give much explanation to that. Many of the points are covered also. So I can't skip those points which were covered earlier. So bear with me that some of the points may be repeating. So to save the time, I just read it out now. Aurobindo's vision of ancient Indian polity. The evolution of Sri Aurobindo's life stands witness to his political views and convictions. From a revolutionary political being to evolutionary spiritual being. A revolutionary political being to an evolutionary spiritual being, he can be said to be a proponent of spiritual democracy with strong roots in spiritual nationalism. When we are talking about, I am also being attracted towards explaining more and more, it is not necessary to explain, but one sentence only. Whenever we are talking about democracy, but Bharatiya democracy, Indian democracy, has got some difference actually. In our roots and in our blood, in our life, democracy was there, Loktantra. But that was a spiritual democracy. It has been mentioned earlier also. And continuing. He put it lucidly in his famous Uttarapada speech as soon as he came out of prison in 1909. The speech underlines his views about nationalism more vividly than ever before. I have got a bit reservation regarding these words: nationalism, Indian, I have got some reservation because we are participating in a war of narratives. In war of narratives, the greatest weapon, the strongest weapon is terms and words. So if you are not using proper terms, you are admitting the defeat before the war begins. That's it. That's why what I have said, that if you want to converse with, if you wish to converse with me, you have to define your terms. Here also, when you are adding ism to Rashtriyata, ism has got a very limited meaning. Limited meaning in the sense it's a closed book of thought. Nothing can be added to it, nothing can be taken out of it. But as far as Bharatiyata is concerned, you cannot add ism suffix to Rashtra. Nation itself शब्दों के बारे में मेरे को थोड़ा सा रिजर्वेशन है, but great scholar परंज पे सुबोतो नेजियो ये सब विषय के बारे में बताए. Still, Rashtra has got a wonderful meaning. Prakasha is attached to it. Jnana is attached to it. The equipment which give us shadow and move towards the prakasha, all these things are there. Anyway, but I have to repeat that. The speech underlines his views about nationalism more vividly than ever before. It was at a critical juncture of his internal transformation where he delivered the Uttarapada speech. You know better than me. The speech marked the end of his active political life in the sense, in the physical sense. But he was continuing the political emancipation of the land. That also you are very well aware about the fact. Without any doubt, he declared that Sanatana Dharma is our nationalism, rejecting all other definitions. He reiterated it unambiguously, quote, the Sanatana Dharma, that is nationalism, this is the message I have to speak to you. For Aurobindo Maharishi, when the Sanatana Dharma declines, then the nation declines. And if the Sanatana Dharma were capable of perishing, with the Sanatana Dharma, it would perish. Being brought up under the Western influence, in the beginning days it was so. We are all aware about that fact. Aurobindo was influenced by many Western philosophers, or he came in close to such theories and philosophies, including Henry Benson. He often applied Western's evolutionary view to the Upanishadic wisdom. According to Aurobindo, no evolution is possible without involution. Evolution is not possible without involution. The spirit is to be involuted in the beginning, and that is being evolved out later on, which involves the succession of the divine to the world of matter. The eternal spirit is beyond of all description, but it descends into the lower realms of being, and then by evolution ascends until it returns to its source. This transition from the eternal spirit to the multiplicity of the phenomenal world is what Aurobindo calls supermind. That has been defined by him. Centuries of political subjugation and colonization of the nation and our mind spaces by alien forces have made us believe the dictum that, leaving aside the blind forces of nature, nothing moves in this world which is not Greek in origin. Such a servitude mentality is there in our mind. Everything Western is good. Everything Western is good. This particular dictum, why I have selected is, there is a small anecdote. Some 4 or 5 years back I come across a guidebook which has been meant for Pune ISER. Pune के ISER को दिए हुए guidebook देखने का अवसर मिला. And in that ISER, you know, most prestigious technological science institute है. Or in that it has been given, the direction has been given to the guides that you have to give the proper history of science, architecture and everything. So I was very happy. ऐसा दिया है तो अच्छा है. हिस्ट्री तो पढ़ाना चाहिए भारत के विज्ञान का इतिहास. लेकिन उसके बाद एक सेंटेंस दिया है to get a proper perspective of the science, evolution and history, you have to start with the 4-element theory of Greek. 4-element theory. That is a strange part. I don't know, still it is continuing or not, but the ISER guidebook is saying that to give a proper perspective, you have to give the example of the Greek four-element theory. See, what is great in, okay, at a particular point of time, Greek has developed the four-element theory. बेचारे चार तक ही गए हैं. Aristotle थोड़ा ईथर के बारे में बताया है, लेकिन that's a vague ढंग से. It's not a proper Akasha Tattva of ours. But I asked then minister in a public program, sir, why can't you just give the five-element theory of Bharat also, just for comparing? Students के सामने ये भी रख दीजिए आप. पृथ्वी सगंधा सरसास्ततापा स्पर्शी च वायु ज्वलनं च तेजः नभस्स शब्दं महता सहैव कुर्वन्तु सर्वे मम सुप्रभातम्. Even the unpad and so-called unlettered people of Dehat used to start their morning with this sloka. Not only just saying earth, water, air, fire and akasha. They are saying the quality of earth also. Prithvi sa gandha. Gandha or the smell of the earth. Ruchi of water. Taste of water. That's the fundamental quality. It is not just a taste of sugar or anything, but it's a much wider concept and a deep concept. But I am just saying our unpad log, the so-called, quote-unquote, unpad people were all talking about this every day morning. Prithvi sagandha sarasastadapa sparshi chavayu jalanam chatejava napassa shabdam mahata sahaiva kurvantu sarve mama suprabhatam. This is the way in which our natural village life used to stay. I am not talking about the Sanskrit universities at that time. I asked the then minister that why can't you give such an example even, for comparison even. This is the way in which we are saying, leaving aside the blind forces of nature, nothing moves in this world which is not Greek in origin. Sab kuch Greek hai. This is not true. Half of the humanity moves on independent foundations and ideas supplied by Bharat. This has been clearly mentioned. I don't want to quote Aurobindo in each and every aspect. Those who are a bit aware about the Aurobindo literature, you know, he answered to all these questions. The countries in the Asia and Southeast Asia, including China, Japan, Tibet. I don't include Tibet in China. Whether any diplomatic problem will arise, I don't know. China, Japan, Tibet, Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia used to look up Bharat for spiritual inspiration. Bharat was the hub of innovation, a repository of scientific, medical and political ideas. Recent excavations in parts of Haryana, Rakigadi, the artifacts recovered from those places conclusively prove our claim that Bharat was the center of scientific innovations, especially metallurgy and alchemy. Sri Aurobindo deeply expresses his opinion to re-establish the ancient facts such as political, economic and social aspects of Bharatiya Sanskriti. Democracy and ancient Indian political structures. It's often claimed that democracy was handed down to us by our colonial masters. It's a great joke that the Westminster system of democracy. Still our political science students are repeating just like that we learned democracy from there. It is not just the students or anyone. The great educated leaders also still believe this. I am not just exaggerating. Some 9 or 10 years ago, a great leader has been awarded an honorary doctorate from Cambridge University. Oxford University. He went to receive that award, not award, doctorate. Free मिलता है ना? वो भी इंग्लिश लोग देते हैं तो बड़ा है. वहां जाकर इस प्रकार नहीं है. More than this. वहां आए हुए वेस्टर्नर्स को देखकर बेचारे भारतीय नेता को इतना आनंद आ गया, and after receiving that doctorate which has been freely given to him, he made a wonderful or strange reply remarks in which he said that now I can say that you people have taught us how to think about the modern life, modern education, modern laboratory, modern university, free speech, everything has been, we learned from you. So I have to be, एक प्रकार से मेरे को कृतज्ञता होने की आवश्यकता है. Recently it was available in the public domain, that speech. I don't want to name the person. So he is considered to be the most educated leader at that point of time. Only one problem was with him. He unclean also. Only one problem was with him. He seldom speak in Bharat. मौन रहते हैं, बाहर जाकर खूब बोलते हैं. इस प्रकार का से है. So democracy was handed over by our colonial masters. That according to Aurobindo, after thorough study about our history and philosophy, I quote, the legend of Indian political incompetence has arisen from a false view of the historical development and an insufficient knowledge of the ancient past of the country. हमारी हिस्ट्री के बारे में, ancient past के बारे में सही जानकारी के बिना ये हो रहा है. Sri Aurobindo says the tendency of some scholars to read the modern, ये भी उन्होंने बताया, everything हमारे यहाँ है, and we used to say that, आजकल ऐसा भी एक विचार है. देखिए रामायण में देखिए ब्रह्मास्त्र था. ब्रह्मास्त्र is actually intercontinental ballistical missile. इस प्रकार कंपेयर करने का एक प्रयोग है. उस प्रकार अगर ब्रिटेन में पार्लियामेंट का सेटअप कैसा था, some political leaders are there, they want to say that exact same thing was there in Ramarajya also. Even the nomenclature was same. I used to say, but Aurobindo was not a person to accept that. He said, Sri Aurobindo says the tendency of some scholars to read the modern ideas of and types of democracy into the past of India should be avoided if we have to get a clear idea about India's polity. Or he says, I'm quoting from Erlesa in India with the defense of Indian culture, page 387, quote, there was a strong democratic element if we must use the Western terms in Indian polity and even institutions that present a certain analogy to the parliamentary form. But in reality, these features were of India's own kind and not at all the same things as modern parliaments and modern democracy. And so consider they are much more remarkable evidence of the political capacity of the Indian people in their living adaptation to the ensemble of the social mind and body of the nation than when we judge them by the very different standard of Western society and the peculiar needs of its cultural style. So we have got such great advanced, unique democratic style and administrative skill and democratic systems. It has been very clearly mentioned. In Bharat, the spiritual and religious tendency of our society led to the development of Brahmin order. Brahmin order. Priests, scholars, legis, and associated class. In other societies, such a development might have led to theocracy. See how he has clearly mentioned, yes, such a class has developed, there's no doubt, but it never allowed to develop a theocratic state here. But in other countries, other nations, it led to this type of development, social development has led to the theocratic state. But in Bharat, in spite of Brahmins emerging as the final authority, they could not assert the political power which remained with its Kshatriyas and the commons. It has also been mentioned clearly mentioned by Aurobindo. And then comes his very clear message that who was ultimate here? Neither Brahmins nor Kshatriyas, but he was saying even above Brahmins and all Kshatriyas was the Rishi. Rishi was there, the man of higher spiritual experience and knowledge, born in any of the classes. It is not necessary to born in Brahmins to become Rishis. There are n number of examples. N number. Vishwamitra was not a Brahmin. He was a Kshatriya in that sense. Many of the Rishis of Vedas are so-called backward community members. So-called backward community members. So even Brahmin, Kshatriyas and other classes consulted sought authority from the rishis. The evolution of Bharat's political system was not uniform. This aspect has also been clearly mentioned by Sri Aurobindo. It was not uniform. But over a period of time, it became almost a universal type. It was over a period of time. The king, either hereditary or elected, ruled for a fixed time and retired for spiritual pursuits after that period. In the administration of the state, the king was helped by assemblies and force was rarely used to enforce the system. Force was rarely used to enforce the system. This gave a permanence to the system unlike in the West. This gave a permanence in the system. Although the king, aided by his council, was the last word in administrative, political and military matters, I am quoting, his power was not personal and it was besides hedged in by safeguards against abuse and encroachment and limited by liberties and powers of other public authorities and interests who were, so to speak, lesser co-partners with him in the exercise of sovereignty and administrative legislation and control. Very clearly defined. Sri Aurobindo identifies dharma as the basic. Then he explains about dharma being the basic principle of all facets of life, especially the polity also. Identifies dharma as the basic principle of society which permeates all aspects: religious, ethical, social, political, juridical and customary law life of people. Dharma governs the life of the masses. The life of the society is based on the physical life of an individual through the rule of cyclic law. I am quoting, a greater sovereign than the king was the dharma. The religious, ethical, social, politic, juridic and customary law organically governing the life of the people. This impersonal authority was considered sacred and eternal in its spirit and the totality of its body, always characteristically the same. The changes organically and spontaneously brought about in its actual form by the evolution of the society being constantly incorporated in it. Regional, family and other customs forming a sort of attendant and subordinate body capable of change only from within, and with the dharma, no secular authority, so-called secular authority, had any right of autocratic interference. इसमें interfere करने के लिए भी दिया नहीं. So, dharma governed all. Dharma was the main principle. अदंड्योस्मी कहने वाले राजाओं को भी पलाश के दंड को पीठ पर मारते हुए धर्म कहते हैं धर्मदंड्योस्मी, धर्मदंड्योस्मी. So dharma was the ultimate authority. Another aspect which Sri Aurobindo addressed in his works and in his speeches, the critics of Indian culture never accepted the antiquity of Indian civilization. And they are not ready to accept the artistic, scientific marvels which we have achieved. But what Aurobindo said, and quoting from Foundations of Indian Culture, Indian civilization has been the form and expression of a culture as great as any of the historic civilizations of mankind, great in religion, great in philosophy, great in science, great in thought of many kinds, great in literature, art and poetry, great in organization of society and politics, great in craft and trade and commerce. Everywhere, Bharat was at the top. He never allowed anyone to criticize without any reason. Without any reason, they used to criticize our artistic view and everything. I was hearing Madam's explanation about art and culture of Bharat. Ours was an integral view about the art. Recently, I came across a discussion in which, this time for the first time in the history of Indian film, one folk song and folk singer has been awarded the best female playback singer. Nanchiamma from Kerala. She has been awarded. And थोड़ा बीच में थोड़ा या वो सुनने के समय मैंने जो कलेक्ट करके रखा, male singer was Rahul Deshpande. He was a great Hindustani musician of Maharashtra. So एक मिनट थोड़ा सा, कुछ लोग को नींद आ रहे हैं इसलिए नहीं वो तो इसका कुछ प्रॉब्लम है मेरा सिस्टम का. एनीवे
नहीं सुनाई दे रहा है माइक आ रहा माइक के पास पास रखिए. आ रहा है आवाज आ रही है
थोड़ा सा रहे हैं.
ठीक है
देशपांडे का वॉइस है.
तो कोई बात नहीं, क्या हुआ बता ले.
आगे नचियम्मा का सुनाइए.
नचियम्मा का सुनना चाहिए. अरे गिरी ये भी
फोन का स्पीकर माइक पर रखो.
इंक्रीज वॉल्यूम.
सॉरी entirely different music. Different ऐसा लगता है. One is most advanced scientific कहने वाले classic Hindustani music. Second was just like she was saying, it was a folk music or lok sangeet. But criticism came that how can you consider lok music as an art? An art. It is only a craft. Warli painting, it's a craft. But M.F. Hussain is an artist. His art was his great art. But poor Warli painting करने वाली, मैंने सोच रहा हूँ, मैं clearly देखा नहीं Warli painting है ऐसा लगता है. You have shown a mother, an old mother is painting on a wall of a hut. Warli painting is not an art, it is a craft, just repeating the same thing and again and again. So such an intellectual hegemony of some ideology is still ruling us. Such people used to say that this integral view of art is not proper, it is not correct. When you are saying that these type of village music and art are not art in that sense, it cannot be accepted. But as far as Aurobindo was concerned, which has been mentioned by her, our artistic beauty, whatever may be the form, whatever may be the style, whatever may be the strokes, whatever may be the sur, all are art, all are manifestation of Ma Saraswati. That is the way in which we have accepted. यहाँ केरल चुवर चित्र कला का जो पिक्चर दिखाया था, केरल में चुवर चित्र कला और मुरल पेंटिंग का जो फ्रॉम केरला, इसलिए मैं बता रहा हूँ, at least 1,500 years old. It has been clearly mentioned in Vishnu Dharmottari. उसमें लिखा है 7 chapters are there how Chor Chitra Kala is being made. So that you are an expert in that, we can discuss about that also. So he used to say, in art and poetry, great in the organization of society and politics, great in craft and trade and commerce, everywhere we were great. ऐसा उन्होंने बताया. The ancient world looks up to the highest level and sees it as the achievement of things in its mind, and its spirit is an undisputed authority and admiration. This is the true sense of progress, and as part of it, there must be a sound political, economic and social life, a power and efficiency that enables people to survive, grow and move safely towards collective perfection, and a vital elasticity and representativeness that gives room for constant and advancement in the outward expression of mind and spirit. These things accelerate the greatest possible contribution to human culture and progress. The current pattern of events is a great distortion and pointless and delays humanity's spiritual evolution. Current distortion is delaying the human evolution. the spiritual evolution.
Sir.
So, I don't want to take much time. I would like to conclude
Sir.
this presentation. Already August 15th speech and his 5 dreams were explained by more than one speakers. So I don't want much to talk about that. But when he was speaking about 5 dreams, in the first dream itself, there is a particular term which he has used, that the United India. United India. The first of these dreams was a revolutionary movement which would create a free and united Bharat. He never minced his words again in that aspect. Again, I would like to ask everyone who is participating here, I am not sure whether it has been remembered here or not. We are enjoying a partitioned freedom, a divided freedom. Mahatma Gandhi ji used to say, vivisect me before vivisecting Bharat. Rajendra Prasad said that it is a perfect, what you say, it's a sacred triangle, divine triangle, you can't divide it. But it has been divided. But this particular aspect has been addressed by a single national leader on the very first day of our independence, that was Sri Aurobindo. None other than Aurobindo has dared to address it. Even now, a particular thought school के लोग तो address करते हैं प्रधानमंत्री जैसे लोग, but majority of the philosophers and academicians are not ready to address it. But Sri Aurobindo said, if we have to make Bharat in the real sense of free करना है तो it is to be united. Unite करना है. And if the Asia is to be, पूरा एशिया में resurgence लाना है, liberation लाना है तो भी India is to be united. That is the prerequisite of all these things. Prerequisite. World Union के बारे में सोचना है तो भी India is to be strong. And also, a spiritual gift of India, if it is to be given to the whole world, Bharat, the sacred land, मृण्मयी रूप of Shakti, देवी का मृण्मयी रूप है, इसका एक होना चाहिए. So उन्होंने बताया था, you may be very well knowing about all these aspects. I don't want to explain much, but that particular sentence, sentences I would like to repeat in the end. India is free, but she has not achieved unity. Only a fissured and broken freedom. The old communal division into Hindu and Muslim seems to have hardened into the figure of a permanent political division of the country. It is to be hoped that the Congress and the nation will not accept the settled fact as forever settled or as anything more than a temporary expedient. For if it lasts, India may be seriously weakened. Seriously weakened. Even crippled, civil strife may remain always possible. Possible even a new invasion and foreign conquest. The partition of the country must go. भारत अखंड होना ही चाहिए. भारत अखंड होना, अखंड भारत का जो सपना साकार होने की आवश्यकता है. Partition of the country must go. It is to be hoped by a slackening of tension, by a progressive understanding of the need of peace and concord, by the constant necessity of common and concerted action, even of an instrument of union for that purpose. In this way, unity may come about under whatever form. The exact form may have a pragmatic but not a fundamental importance. But by whatever means, the division must and will go, for without it, the destiny of India might be seriously impaired and even frustrated. But that must not be happening. So this division must go, partition must go. This has been clearly seen by Sri Aurobindo, the great Rishi. Rishi used to see, तीनों काल को देखने वाला है, त्रिकाल दर्शी है. So he said, it must go and it will go. So with that end before our eyes also, we have to work all together. It is nothing religious or nothing communal. It is a spiritual awakening of this great land. If we are really aiming at the spiritual awakening, the ness of this great land, that also has to be put firmly in our mind. Actually, Aurobindo followers must not forget this great lecture which has been given before us. With these words, I am concluding my speech. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share these words. Thank you. Vande Mataram.
Sir, can I have a question for you, sir? Nandakumar, sir?
We'll have a question answer session with all the speakers. So I invite Anand Bhaiya, Makranji, Beluji to come onto the dais. We have about 10 to maybe 1 or 2 questions each. If anybody has any question, we can take those questions. Nandakumarji's address was actually a follow-up of by acquiring strength, what needs to be done. So when we have lost strength, he explained about that we need to ponder about what happened between 1911 to 1947. He mentioned about the Kakinada session where Vishnu Digambar Pulaskar, that was the last time where the full Vande Mataram was sung in a Congress session. So he was generally singing the full Vande Mataram, and the president of the Congress session at that point of time were one of those two Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. And he said that I cannot tolerate being here as the president. In my presence, you cannot sing Vande Mataram. Muhammad Ali walked out of that session, and Vishnu Digambar Pulaskar said कि ये आप कांग्रेस की session आपकी, I'm sorry to use this word, but he said this, that ये आपकी बाप की जागीर नहीं है. And he said, I will sing the full Vande Mataram. That was the last time when it was sung. So basically we need to probably think about what happened between 11 to 47. What was this change in the psyche that came in our country? And of course, if we have to fulfill the vision of one Bharat, the Divine Mother as one to one again, we need to acquire that strength which Makranji also had mentioned. So a lot of points for pondering, for thinking, for doing, for writing, for thinking, expressions in various forms, whether it is poetry, music, dance, drama, theatre, art. These aspects that have come today can be expressed in various forms. Anand Bhaiya in the morning he spoke about, he gave those seed ideas about what is going to happen in the next 3 sessions. Also, Jalaka mentioned about William Archer's book, which was the papers that came, and the response to that was by John Woodruff with the title Is India Civilized? Because that was unsuitable, Sri Aurobindo expanded on that, and he said that by the current, even if this response is not enough, so I will urge, Nandakumar ji also has mentioned about foundations of Indian culture, Makranji also quoted from that. So I am sure there are copies of that book here. It is renamed as Renaissance in India. So that book is a must read for all of us to cover these entire aspects that we have covered today, to go into more detail. They will also give us seed ideas about how to move forward. Makranji's talk, the key takeaway was the Swarat and Virat. So unless we have control on our senses, not only as individuals but also as a society, we cannot achieve the Virat form of what our nation is destined to be. So I think that is the key takeaway that I took from Makranji. Beluji's session, anyway, I've given a few points. So the session is open for about 10 minutes. We have question answers. The question can be addressed to anybody. But please don't give observations. Please, if there is any question, you can ask the question.
May I?
Yeah, please. There's a lady there first. We'll come from there.
Oh.
So Ayesha ji from Hyderabad Central University. Okay,
My question is to Nandaji. Can we fulfill the dream of Akhand Bharat or United India? I want to say whether we will say Akhand Bharat for rest of my life. I want to know whether we will say or not. Is there any chance? Yes.
It is for me.
Yes.
Okay. If you have got a fire inside your mind that yes, I'll see, then it will happen. There is no doubt about that. It is going to happen. There is no doubt about that. Things are moving in that direction. You can watch it and you can experience it, what all are going on in the adjacent areas. So I don't want to go much deep into that fact. When I am saying about Akhanda Bharata, without which, as Aurobindo was clearly stated, it will be an impaired one. It will be a Durbal Bharat. Ho jaye. So for that purpose, we have to give fire to that feeling that it is going to happen. Many such things has happened in your lifetime also, is it not? Some years back it was a dream, so many things, I don't want to go much deep into that. But even if, just one example, some years back when I have started my pracharakship in Kannur area, I used to give speeches for hours about Ram Janmabhoomi. But after every speech, when came back to the Karyalaya to sleep, neend nahi aate the. And I was thinking, I have talked much, people clapped and everything, but will it happen? Will it happen? But yes, it will happen. ऐसा करके एक बार संकल्प लिया है तो नींद आते. But I was not expecting that it will happen before my eyes. But it has happened, is it not? What about correction? But it will happen. There is no doubt about that. This Amrita Kal, take it from me, this 25 years which has been given as a target for us by all the great national leaders, स्वतंत्रता को पूरा करने के लिए आपके सामने अमृता काल का 25 years का टाइम दिया है. इसमें एक लक्ष्य भारत अखंड होने का ही भी है. इसका मैं सबसे पहले प्रेरणा ले रहे हैं महर्षि अरविंदो से.
Well, just to add to what you have said. Hello? Well, one more thing I could like. There's no sound there.
Take the mic out. Audible. Stand and hold it close.
It's audible.
Yeah. But can you hear me? Yes. Yeah. You see, in fact, Sri Aurobindo himself writes at the end of his 5 dreams that all that I've dreamt will be successful, though it may not be in my own lifetime. You see, no, in fact, he says, I have not dreamt of anything that will not be successful, though it may not be in my own lifetime. So success there will be. It's a question of the length of time. And as he's saying, maybe our aspirations will add to the thing, but it will be done.
Thank you, Aisha ji, for that question. In fact, this question now has become, for me at least, if not a pran, at least a prerna. And I must suggest to the people here that we should organize a conference on that. See, because it is our duty to think some steps ahead. What are the means to achieve it? And I want to say only 2 things. One is, of course, that you need Atmabal, Buddhibal and Bahubal. Okay, this has to be combined. And that is the Indian way, I feel. You start from inside. So it starts with Atmabal. Everybody starts from outside. They always start with Bahubal. But no, we have to start from inside and we have to really ask, are we ready? And Anand Bhaiya said in the morning, and somebody else also said, before a rebirth, you need purification. And purification means tapas. You have to go through fire. Sri Aurobindo has a beautiful poem, Bride of Fire. It's such an amazing poem, I request you to read it, where he says, I am ready, I want to embrace the bride of fire. Now what happens when you embrace the bride of fire? You will be burnt. We have to be ready for that. That's one. The other thing I wanted to say is that Sri Aurobindo says every nation is a soul. Now, if a soul is split into 2, it's divided, let's say, there is a natural tendency for it to amalgamate, to reunite. So, we don't go to Pakistan, we don't go to Bangladesh, somehow the situation is like that. But those of us who have gone there, In the common people, there is that feeling, we are one. This much I can tell you. Whatever the political people are saying or doing, or whoever the people who are controlling this. But in fact, in Pakistan, many times we have had this experience. You go somewhere, you buy something, and if they find out you're from India, they don't even let you pay for it.
Oh.
No, this is a fact. There is so much feeling in the hearts, But that's a different matter. We have to find a way, that's for sure. So we should think about this. But I just wanted to say this divided soul, that's a very important point. Because that's like schizophrenia, And that will only lead to madness. So healing, wholeness, holy, they're all linked. And swa-astha will lead to swasthya. Now, as Nandakumar ji said, we thought many things were impossible. The Berlin Wall fell. Anand Bhai said it was a miracle. It's a divine intervention, these things happen, and when we are ready, we should be ready. I feel the receptivity has to be there. Catholics and Protestants fought. The wars were horrible. People were, जब भी विस्थापित होते हैं, वहाँ भी हुए थे. From France, the Huguenots were thrown out for being Protestant. You read the European history. Today, they're not fighting. Protestants and Catholics are not at war. Germany and France, or Germany and England are not at war. So, what was thought of inevitable at one time is not inevitable. In fact, India and China never had a war till Mao, frankly. You should read this encounter. I think it's by Dalai Lama. He writes about freedom in exile. I think that's the name of the book. And when he meets Mao, he says, when I met him, I also had some hope that he wants a new world, equality. And the first thing Mao tells him, you know what, you forget all this Buddhism, Dharma. And then the Dalai Lama writes, I understood that this person, he doesn't quite say it, but he's an asura, He doesn't say it, so, don't mind my interpolation or interpretation as you like. But you read that encounter, it's 100% clear. See, China would never attack India. You read Chinese epics, Journey to the West. West for them was India. This was the land of Dharma. Some people say even Genghis Khan did not attack India. Because there was a lot of respect for India as the land of Dharma. So in other words, for 1,000 years you live in peace, suddenly somebody attacks you. So that can also happen, or Vikruti, distortion can also happen, and Sukruti can also happen. Mending, rectification, suturing can happen, or rending, cutting and dividing can also happen. Now, I have another friend, Uday Mahorkarji, and we have to reread Savarkar, okay? And what Savarkar said after the Khilafat, first mistake that they made, because it was a progressive thing, they wanted to, again, Britain was behind it. We may not like them, but they were so smart. I won't go into it now, there's no time. So we backed the wrong horse. We should not, Khilafat means Khalifa, that we wanted to support the return of the Khalifa in Turkey. That was not a cause worth supporting. But somehow Gandhiji said, we will give, they will also give. No. Savarkar said, you will give, you won't get back, etc., etc. But the point is this, the point is that Gandhiji, in my view, some people disagree, did all this to avoid bloodshed, to avoid brother cutting the throat of brother. Okay. In the end, what happened? The British went away, not one Britisher was injured, but we killed each other. The bloodbath did happen. So Savarkar said, let's have a civil war. See, Americans had a civil war to save their republic. More people died in the American Civil War, American soldiers, than in World War I or even World War II. You read your history, you'll see. For the sake of the nation, we could have had a war. And if we had won, then there would have been no partition. So Savarkar was saying, we will fight if necessary. Why are you afraid of fighting? This is the point I'm trying to make, that if you think that partition was the outcome of an ideology. That ideology has to be defeated, How that will happen, whether it has to happen across the border, but first it has to happen here in our land. That ideology is still there. So all I'm trying to say is if you reread the history with the hindsight of what has happened, then we could not avoid the bloodshed, but we suffered partition. Maybe the two sides should have had a fight and said, okay, let's decide, okay? And maybe something else would have happened. But these are just some random thoughts. I once again reiterate my request that let us think about this as a serious topic of discussion. It may not happen tomorrow or day after or 1 month later, but I think during this 150th year of Sri Aurobindo and 75th year of India, even if we focus on Sri Aurobindo's thoughts on Akhanda Bharat or on this topic, we have already heard some key prophecies. In the morning we have read the words of Sri Aurobindo. There is a promise, and within, he met K.M. Munshi. K.M. Munshi came to the ashram. He was one of the few people who could meet Sri Aurobindo in 1950. And Sri Aurobindo told him also that the partition will be averted. Not will be averted, but will be reversed, will be abrogated, will be abolished. So we should gather these ideas and add more to them and see. And let us also not forget that within 25 years, Mother had also predicted, at least there was a repartition of Pakistan into Pakistan and Bangladesh. So the two-nation theory was defeated, and at least to that extent, the logic of partition was undone. So I just wanted to say these things.
We are out of time, but since you also have a question.
Good afternoon.
3 people. Yeah, please.
May I put my question?
Yeah, please.
I am Ramohan Tamile, retired Chief Manager in the bank. My question is straight to Nandakumar. Other speakers may also supplement or complement. PPF, past, present, future. Present is present, was present in the past, momentaneously it is present. At present we are in this auditorium. In the future also present will be present. My point is that in the present, at any given time, if the people of the world, or the nation, or the government are irresponsible, mischievous, the next generation people in the future will face the brunt of the past deeds done by the present people. Your take on this? I think my question is clear. Yes.
This one,
What I have understood, I will try to answer.
No. If it is not clear, I can repeat.
Okay. Time is very limited. That is why I try to answer.
मेरा कहना का मतलब है कि
समझ गए।
I understood,
जो
sir.
भी है वो होशियारी से रहना चाहिए, नहीं तो अगले जनरेशन, आगे जनरेशन वाले।
There are so many things which are being corrected. You can't just say that nothing is happening now.
That I
Correct. No. I'm saying corrective steps are being taken. I do feel I'm not part of the government or anyone, but so many things are being corrected, and the governmental actions and the policies are in the right intent, right direction. It is going on very well. I would like to say before you, yes, you can't just say that all of a sudden in a fine morning everything will be corrected. It will take time to correct something. Yes, at that point of time, some sort of complaint and allegations will be there. There is no doubt about that also. So, इस प्रकार से अगर देखा है तो अच्छे क्या है इंटेंशन से अच्छा जो काम कर रहे हैं. For example, national education policy. I don't know whether you have meant about the history, education, and everything. Some sort of corrective steps are being taken. Taken in the sense, first and foremost thing I would like to mention about the NEP, National Education Policy, is that this is the very first education policy where it has been clearly mentioned that this is an India-centric policy. Bharat Kendric policy and teacher-student-centered policy and Bharatiya language ko mahatva dene wale policy. You may be knowing very well, I am not just criticizing any sort of political dispensation, but one thing you have to take into consideration without political leanings. You see, when the language policy is being discussed during the beginning days of our independence time, many of the great leaders were suggesting that Sanskrita is to be given much importance to Bharat. Without Sanskrita, you can't go into Bharatiya Indic language, Indic knowledge tradition. Sanskrit के बिना भारत को समझ नहीं सकते हैं. But what was the reaction of one of the topmost leaders at that point of time? Sanskrit is a dead language. Sanskrita एक मृत भाषा है ऐसा. Was it true? If Hebrew was a dead language ऐसा इसराइल के जनता को उस समय बताए तो वो factually correct था. क्योंकि इसराइल में उस समय हिब्रू अक्का दुक्का 4-5 लोगों को मालूम था. फिर भी they were not ready to accept it. They rekindled the spirit. Hebrew has been taught, reborn, and it became their technical language also. Science, medicine, all are being taught in that language. But we can't just compare Israel type of a nation with Bharat. भारत का एक जिला के उतना भी नहीं है इसराइल, वो तो दूसरे विषय है. लेकिन द स्पिरिट देखिए, भारत में क्या था? संस्कृत was very much alive and eating. Even those people who are doing a puja in the घर, संस्कृत was there. संस्कृत के साथ ही हम पूजा करते हैं ना घर में. संस्कृत was alive, it was not dead, but still some people tried to kill it. संस्कृत अगर ठीक तरह से आ गया है तो आज का बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगा ना. 66 और 70 यूनिवर्सिटीज के बारे में एक भारत के सबसे जाने माने एक एकेडमिशियन ने क्वेश्चन रेज किया आपके सामने. व्हाट आर दे डूइंग एंड व्हाट आर दे गिविंग टू अस? इज इट द वर्ड यू हैव यूज्ड? व्हाट आर दे गिविंग टू अस? व्हाई इट इज हैपनिंग नाउ? next generation must go to Germany to learn Sanskrit. That is the situation. So sad the situation. So sad. So this language policy which has been adopted in the NEP, National Education Policy now, मेरठ में एक example दे रहा हूँ. There are so many things being done, but a particular group is there and the media is there to malign everything is that doing in favor of nation. राष्ट्र के लिए कुछ भी किया है तो इसको malign करने के लिए कोशिश कर रहे हैं. इसलिए perception has been created among the so-called intellectuals that things are not going on in the correct direction. आपके मन में नहीं है, आप सभी के लिए क्वेश्चन पूछा, मेरे को मालूम है, आप सभी के लिए है. You are well learned person. Okay.
No, I only wanted to add a footnote. Yesterday I was at another meeting and I said, Har Ghar Tiranga is very good, but Har Ghar Sanskrit hona chahiye. It's not difficult, you know, because it's there in all our languages. It's there even in English, I can show you. Door, dwar, it's the same. Cow and go. Father. I mean, it's full of it. So I'm saying it takes you to the root of wisdom, to the root of knowledge. And I think in the ashram, they learn Sanskrit from childhood. So, you know, I just wanted to say one little thing to what Nandakumar said. Is luckily, that negationism is going somewhere. That much I can say. वो प्रभाव नहीं है जो पहले था, है ना, कि जब कोई नेगेटिव चीज बोलता है, people listen and they just, you know, so that media, this, that, it's not as influential. So the pendulum has swung to the other side. That I feel, you know, even in the universities and elsewhere, when that criticism is mounted, nobody pays much attention because they have seen the difference. That's what I feel.
So, if it's not very urgent, can we, the time is up.
I would like to add.
Oh, it won't take, just I will briefly. We are so blessed to hear your enlightening speeches. As a layman, just I have one word. After due to running short of time, a very straight question. After how many years the leaders in high positions and decision-making stage in India will understand the limited role of money, so that they will take some noble ideas and these implementation steps. Because without understanding the basic knowledge,
Sir, this is beyond the scope of today's conference, and it is very speculative. Nobody can answer that. When will they start taking money?
Okay, in that sense, I will take who have it seems these speakers have so much vast understanding on Sanatana Dharma and etc. in Indian spirituality. So with that view, just I need one clarification, not doubt, because I'm not that much competent to question. Just I need one clarification. For an average human being, how many years will take to come out of material attractions? Material attractions, which in Sanskrit, Shabdas Parastha Roparastha Gandhadi. Material attractions, how much time it may take?
Sir, it is very difficult to understand what you are asking. It's a muffled noise. I think some Telugu connection hone ke naate you can answer.
I think the answer for that was given by Makaranji in his talk about Swarat. So long as we cannot control our senses, taking money, this is as a society, it's not only for an individual. So I think that answer has already been given. It's very nice to see that after such a long engagement, we are still so active in asking questions, which proves Beluji's point that Raso Vai Saha. So there is a lot of, and since we have Makaranda, we have Ananda, and we have Nandakumar, it's all about Ananda and joy. I think it was a very thoughtful engagement that we had for the
I would like to add what Anand Bhai has said.
One second, madam. I'll invite Challadi. After that, you can.
Okay.
So I'll invite Challadi for the concluding remarks.
Okay, I just wanted to say, like Nandakumar Bhai has said, what happened between 1911 and 1947. 1923, Mother has already said that we got independence, and she has assured when Sri Aurobindo asked her, was there any bloodshed? Mother said no, it will happen. But when partition happened, Sri Aurobindo has stated, two arms of the divine soul of India is broken. Though it is broken, one on the right and one on the left, because it doesn't have a soul, it will be with total destruction, greed, fear and everything. But Pakistan will be broken into 5 pieces, and slowly and naturally it will be added to India. This is what are the words of Sri Aurobindo when the partition happened, and this is what I share it, that partition, though it happened, it was because of the Ashuric forces. Though it happened in 1923, everything was back. 1947, this many years were dragged back, but it will come back to India because they are arms that are cut from India, but one day the arms will join with India, and you will see, and maybe if we are lucky, we will also see. Okay? Good luck.
Thank you, Neela, for that. I'd just like to also, I think Ayesha, you've kind of opened up a series of responses from the speakers, and I'd like to say the same thing because I've said something in the morning to just reread Sri Aurobindo's own promise, because as a rishi, as a maharishi, he saw the future, he had the vision of the future, and in his own words he said, and he promised, and that's what I read in the morning, I spoke in the morning, I read out his quotation, I want to read it as a conclusion. The sun of India's destiny would rise and fill all India with its light and overflow India and overflow Asia and overflow the world. Every hour, every moment would only bring them nearer to the brightness of the day that God had decreed. So that's a very clear promise that it's going to happen. And he was very, very specific and strongly, reiterated that India cannot perish, our race cannot become extinct, because among all the divisions of mankind, it is to India that is reserved the highest and the most splendid destiny, the most essential to the future of the human race. Now, I don't think there's something more clear than this as a promise which is definitely going to be fulfilled. But I would like to address what the gentleman said, and many of us keep, raising the questions to the speakers as to when is this going to happen. I would like to reiterate what Makaran Paranjpet just now said, that end of the day, we have to begin from oneself. It is not somebody else is going to do anything. Nothing is going to happen outside us. Now my question is to each one of us, as what kind of commitment we have to make this vision of India to be really fulfilled. Every morning we need to wake up and ask this question. And unless we do that, and unless we make a simple commitment, I'm sorry to say, We do not read. We do not even attend sessions like these. Such brilliant speakers, I could not have imagined that I could really have on a common platform such erudite and excellent speakers. I think I would like all of us to give them a big hand of applause. I'd like to give myself a big applause so that I can really make all of them come here on one single day. So we don't, on a Sunday we say, oh, Sunday, why should we go and spend 5 or 10 hours, instead of just laying back and watching TV? This is the attitude that people have. And then you want India to be transformed. How is it going to be transformed? We can't make simple sacrifices. We can't take a book of our own culture and read it. We do not take pains to really know about India. I'm talking of the seniors, I'm talking of the adults. Forget about trying to talk about the juniors and the children. How will the children know if the adults don't? And I'm sorry to say, I feel that it's been a great success today I just feel there was so much to learn from what they have said. For all those who have already been exposed to some extent, to a tiny bit extent about Sri Aurobindo and Mother, but so much of learning from them. And for those of us who do not know about Sri Aurobindo, it has been a real, kind of a treasure house to really come to learn about Sri Aurobindo. Unfortunately, and that's one of the questions I want to raise to each and every speaker here, because that is a kind of an angst that I keep feeling, and especially to Makan and Paranjpe, because you are in the university circles, as to what prevents and what has prevented the figure of Sri Aurobindo to really come to the forefront of the universities. I mean, it is something which seems to be completely schemed and specifically, ensured that he is not going to come, because it is known for a fact that if he really comes and enters into the corridors of the intellectual corridors, things are going to be drastically changed. Is that so?
See, I taught a course, on, we have, possibility, JNU, of teaching a course called an author. And you can say an author colon Shakespeare, an author colon Dickens, anybody. So I taught a 2-semester course, an author 1 and an author 2 on Sri Aurobindo. And first time I had 4 students, second time I had maybe 5 students. So it's available, but unless, I don't know why, this is the atmosphere. And people are either not curious or there's tamas in the university settings. So you offer, but there are no takers.
Because don't you think it has been deliberate in terms of really...
It may take some time.
It may take time. It may take time.
We've gone through such a convulsion, so I won't even go into that. But we are trying. I mean, we put it out there, and 3-4 students came, and interestingly, 2 students were from Bangladesh. Our Indians were not interested; they were interested. So these are things that are happening also.
Nandakumar ji, would you like to say something about that?
Same thing, but I would like to request the academicians. I am not part of any administration or anything, and thank God I am not an academician also. But every time whenever I got an opportunity to address these type of academicians and the vice chancellors and all, I used to request that Aurobindo is to be included and the philosophy is to be included as a part of a curriculum and a course, not an informal class being given by a reputed academician is giving, but no one will come. So Aurobindo can be studied in that way. That is my request. I hope that it will happen.
See, more than literature, I think political science would be more.
Political science. That's what which I meant.
I think there are two points I would like to make here. One is that in 2004, when I was teaching at very progressive liberal arts university, private university in America, we signed an MOU with Sakar, and I was surprised to see how much thirst there was among average American students of, say, mid-30s to 40s who were sort of like as returning students for the master's program in which I was working, to take up anything that takes you beyond the ordinary understanding of human psychology, human civilization and culture. And Anand Bhaiya is sitting right here along with him and few other faculty from Sakar. We were able to continue offering courses in Sri Aurobindo studies to the American students till 2013-14, something like that. Even after I moved to Pondicherry in 2007, that program continued. Only 2016-2017 that program ended when my colleague, due to her illness, left the department and the other person was not interested in continuing. But till 2016-17, I had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 independent study interested students interested either in integral educational thought of Sri Aurobindo or the mother, or works on Indian culture, or also somebody said the political philosophy, ideal of human unity, human cycle. So that was my experience, that outside India there has been a lot of opening to it. The second thing is also, I think what Nandakumar ji just said, my own experience having worked on many projects with Pondicherry University over the last 4 or 5 years suggests that if there is not direct opening as to take a course on life divine or Sri Aurobindo studies, but if through back door we bring in certain things on Sri Aurobindo's or mother's educational thought, social thought, psychology, or even philosophical thought. I had a course, somebody said, I think Ayush ji mentioned about gender discourse in India. I taught a course at Pondicherry University, which is very close otherwise to new thoughts, on rethinking feminism from Indian perspectives. Almost 90% of the course was inspired by Sri Aurobindo and the mother. So it is not that it is not possible, it is just that we have to sometimes get creative and use a little bit backdoor side.
That's unfortunate that you're talking about backdoor. I don't agree with you, Beludiri. I don't want it to be backdoor anymore. It's time, after 150 years, I don't think we should wait.
That's what I think with now it might change.
No, it has to. It has to.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, I will not be able to take any other comments because we are running really late. I just like to conclude saying that the Institute of Human Study has been celebrate Sri Aurobindo since last year, August 15th, 2021, and we are continuing the celebrations. So because we have a lot of participants here who have shown interest to attend this program, I would just like to say that we have already completed a few of them last year, like Auro Adhyayan, which was a shibir for training the teachers. We have also come up with Auro a national seminar on national education policy. And we had the privilege of the Vice President to come and inaugurate Sri Aurobindo's exhibition last year. And we are continuing this year with this program of Auro I'm short of Adhyayan.
Auro Adhyayan.
Yeah.
You made Adhyayan into an Adhyayan.
Okay. And then now we are going to come up with an inter-school competition called Auro Sammelan. We are trying to promote knowledge and kind of information about Sri Aurobindo in schools and colleges, so that there would be more youth who are going to come to learn about Sri Aurobindo's vision. And then we also already had Auro Krida, where a few young men who were able to run for 150 kilometers commemorating his 150th birth anniversary year. And then we are going to have several cultural programs called Auro Utsav. And I would request all of you to please participate enthusiastically in these programs, so that one cause for all of us is to be able to really celebrate Sri Aurobindo in this year, and it's really a privilege and a blessing. So with this, I really thank everyone who is present here. But like Anand Bhaiya said, I would say this is more of a blessing for us to be here, to be able to really learn about Sri Aurobindo's vision. With this, I would like Ayush ji to please come and give a token of appreciation to Nandakumar ji. Sir has to leave shortly because he has to catch a flight. And before that, I would like to call Shri V ji, the editorial member, House Journal of Pragna Bharati, to come and deliver a formal vote of thanks.
Namaskar everybody. Namaskar on the stage, Makaranji, Anandji, Nandji, where is he? Anand hai to Anand mein bhul gaya. Aurobindo as such is Aravinda. You all know that. It is lotus. In Bengali form of it is Aurobindo, then it became Auro. It has both Ravi as well as Ravi se jo blossom. The one which blossoms with Ravi's rays is Aravinda. That's where they come from. That's the beauty that in the Bharatiya philosophy, Bharatiya consciousness, we equate many things to Kamala. That's why we say Padakamalam, Kamalam for the eyes, comparisons and things like that. So beautiful. And that fortunately for us, they make that our national flower, of course. Now, from the talks that we had heard, it's really a blessing. First thing is that I am actually unqualified to be standing here to talk about anything at all. I'm neither an academic, nor I have actually followed Aurobindo ji so much. I don't know really. But it's a privilege to be here because I'm part of Bharatiya Prajna, which is a magazine from Prajna Bharati. Now Bharati itself is about Saraswati, you all know that. And Bhavani Bharati that has been mentioned by Makaranji, it has both Saraswati as well as Durga. And Anandji in the morning had mentioned about power of education, knowledge, to achieve the spiritual independence that we are all talking about, which will happen. We have to struggle. It's not as if it's just going to happen just because we are there, or just we happen to exist. It may not happen in our lifetime. Most of us are past that age where we can probably see that thing happening. Or if you're fortunate enough, we can probably see that. But many of you, in the audience, sitting here, the young people, the youth over here, you need to be guided, which these great people have done in the morning till now. We thank them all from all our organizations, the co-organizations, etc. Namaskar, sir. Thank you very much. And the Ministry of Culture, of course. I keep forgetting because I'm not used to this. Thank you very much.
We'll end with Shanti Mantra. Please come. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukha bhag bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti.